This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation.
Time for school.
Hey, School Success Makers. Welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater. I'm joined by a new friend out of Nashville, Tennessee, Dr. Brenda Jones, who is the founder and head of school of Invictus Nashville, which is a Montessori charter school set to launch in the fall of 2025. And one of the things I love to do on this podcast is when we interview people, we get people from all different stages of the education journey. So some that have been in school and had a school for, some of the schools are over 100 years old, and some are startups, and some are not even started up yet. And she's right in the middle of that journey. And I was like, well, I'd still love to talk with you because you can still speak into a lot of these things that our listeners are looking for, and you specifically listeners are looking for. So we're going to do that today. But before we jump into the actual nitty gritty of the podcast, I'm going to pass it off to Brenda to introduce herself. So Dr. Brenda, welcome to the podcast today.
Well, thank you for having me.
It is going to be, go ahead. It's going to be a blast, but I want you to go ahead. Yeah. To introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So, I'm Dr. J. That's what the cool kids like to call me. And I am the founder of Invictus Nashville. We are a Montessori school set to open next year, as you explained. I am a Nashville native and lifelong educator. I have been a teacher. I have been a coach. I have been a principal. I've been all things before I started this journey, and I'm very excited to continue to give back to the community.
Love it. Well, I'm excited for you as well. So as I start off my questions, I always start with the same one, and it's not one that you know is coming. So see, I'm going to throw you a curveball right to start off the podcast. So I always say this, it's funny. I've only been to Nashville one time, and it was when I was a little kid, technically Nashville. I've driven right by Nashville earlier this year, but I didn't go into Nashville. I was headed to Clarksville, where my friend lives in Clarksville, Tennessee. So, but my question is this. If I was to visit Nashville, what would you say, Mitchell? You got to do this and eat this. What do I got to do and what do I got to eat?
And so you have to eat Prince's hot chicken. Not everybody's hot chicken, not Hattie B's, not all the other places. Prince's hot chicken is the original hot chicken in Nashville, Tennessee. So you got to eat that.
Okay.
hmm
Love it. What do I got to do?
And what do you have to do that screams Nashville? I mean, it's levels to this now. You could go and view the botanical gardens at, Opera Mills and the Grand Ole Opry, or you can just go on Second and Broadway one evening and have an experience. Depends on what you're looking for.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I love some hot chicken. So I don't even know if I could say I've had true hot chicken then, it sounds like, from what you're saying. So, because I'm talking about the one from McDonald's, right? That's the legit hot chicken, right? I'm just kidding.
Oh, no.
Would you, all right, tell me this though, Elise, all right? I love a Cajun filet biscuit combo from Bojangles. Like, it's one of my favorite things ever. Is that good? Or is that like, Mitchell, you're embarrassing me right now?
A little embarrassing. I'm sorry. It's just a little embarrassing. But, once you have Princess Hot Chicken, you'll get the difference. And you're like, yeah, she was right. There's nothing to compare to it. Just don't go above the hot. Anything above the hot is not good for your health.
Good to know. And yes, I understand what you're saying completely. I won't do that.
Yeah.
Trust me. Well, as we jump into the nitty gritty of the questions today, obviously we're going to jump into some of the same questions, but I would love to hear what are some of these challenges you guys are currently up against, you specifically are up against as you're starting this school. It's going to launch again, fall 2025. So you have now it's less than a year before all those doors are open and kids are coming in the door. So what are currently some of those challenges that you're up against right now? And then how are you combating those challenges right now?
One of the challenges, really for all startups here in Nashville specifically, is facilities. finding community partners who want to work with you to get a facility so that you're, off the ground, your startup business in one aspect, um, is really challenging. The real estate here is really high. There's not a lot of opportunity and options. So facilities is always a challenge for any school, including mine. We did not bypass the facilities challenge era. So,
Man.
uh, to combat that, the second part of your question, have an amazing facility team. Facility Resource Center and Cameron Quick have been doing a really great job. Jennifer, who works with Guild Properties, is our broker and real estate guru. And then my board of directors have been really involved as well. So we all have scoured our area to find locations, and we actually had a few um, big name churches come out to say, "Hey, we got extra space here and there. Can we partner with you?" And we have a top two, so we should know within the next 6 weeks where our home will be.
Hey, school success makers, just a really quick break from the episode to highlight our amazing sponsors over at America's Christian Credit Union. They are celebrating 65 years of service this year, and they provide essential school banking services and a tuition financing program for schools looking to reduce their risk and administrative burden. And you guys can find out all about them on their website, americaschristiancu.com/schools. That's americaschristiancu.com/schools. They are amazing over there, and I always like to say, if you're a school that collects tuition and you have a hard time collecting all of tuition at the end of the year, maybe it comes around May, June, you're like, man, we only got collected 95 or 98% of what tuition was owed to our school. One of the things you can do is have your parents get a tuition financing loan through the credit union, and then they pay the credit union directly, and you get your funds up front at the beginning of the year as the school. So you don't have to chase people throughout the year, and you can focus on what you do best, and that is loving and educating your students. And it doesn't cost your school anything to do it. So check them out online, americaschristiancu.com/schools. All right, back to the show. That is exciting. I love my first go-to when I tell people, when people are looking for a building, I'm like, man, have you looked at the churches in the area? Because typically the tradition, I've been raised in church my entire life, and I get faithful going to every weekend, but there's 5 days a week. A lot of times that church is empty. There's nothing in there because they don't have a school. They don't have a preschool. They're using it for nights, usually in the Sundays. So I'm like, man, it's just wasting AC or wasting all the heat, whatever, wherever it is. I would love to see schools and all these churches across the country that are just sitting there that could help these people. That so you don't have to spend millions of dollars on a building or facility. So that is exciting to hear.
It's a reciprocal relationship. I think that the challenge that people see and it usually like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to do that," is it's a separation of church and state when you're a public school, which both entities are serving the community. So if you can come to an agreement around what is separate, because we're public, so it's a public school and not like a, a school attached to one faith or any one faith, then you both can have a reciprocal relationship. You can both serve the communities that you're in. You can both partner to do events and like make sure that you're getting out the messages that need to go out to the community. So it's actually a really great partnership to have, and I hope that more church leaders and public school entities will decide to partner moving forward because it helps both sides. It helps everyone.
For sure. Has it been a challenge too for you? And not to steal away any other challenges you maybe are going through right now, but for challenges, my wife and I are very familiar with Montessori. We do that with our son. We homeschool him, but we do Montessori. And so I know the name Montessori is not a trademark name, so anybody can put that on a school and say I'm a Montessori school, but it not be truly Montessori. As well as
Yeah.
being a public charter school, you're not. I know you don't have as many freedoms as being just a private Montessori school to do different things. So, how have you so far as you're starting this, setting this up, curriculum and all that? How
hmm
do you set up a public Montessori charter school when you probably can't do? I'm assuming you can't do like the combined classrooms maybe for like a primary setup in a lower elementary. I'm not sure how that part works, but like, how have you set up? It's a long question, long-winded question to ask. How are you
Yeah.
doing it with the name Montessori when it is a publicly funded institution?
Well, actually, we can do mixed grade bands. So We will be able to do mixed grade bands with our students, and we intend to do so. Um, and that is not the challenge. I think the challenge with Montessori and being an authentic Montessori school and a public school is just making sure that the curriculum that you're doing with the Montessori lessons align to or can be traced to the actual state standards that need to be assessed. So we actually will be a true Montessori school, mixed grade band, doing the Montessori lessons. But what we've done is mapped the Tennessee state standards to the Montessori lessons. So if somebody's looking at it from a traditional lens and they just need the what are the standards being taught, we can tell them, even though the lesson might not look like something they've seen before because they're not familiar with Montessori. So you actually can do both, but it takes work to align and then to figure out where the gaps are. Sometimes you might have a standard that's really isolated and very specific that won't show up in a Montessori lesson. So you'll have to make sure you can supplement. But we have figured out the balance and we're really excited about offering this authentic approach while also honoring our contract as a public charter and making sure students are ready for the state assessment.
That's awesome. Great answer. Great. I feel like roundabout for sounds like a really well set up and executed Montessori model that'll launch next year, which is exciting. I love the Montessori framework, so that's really cool. What are some other challenges maybe that pop in your mind right now that you guys are dealing with?
Well, we are kicking up fundraising efforts. So fundraising is always interesting, especially for public charters. When you think about how we're funded, we get, money based off of per pupil funding or whatever the formula is for any general state. But what that money has to do is to cover all things. So not just, your staff, but transportation and school nurses and all the things that if you are a part of a district will be included in some type of district contract. So most smart charter school leaders would ensure that their budget is sustainable based off their per pupil funding, which usually happens, but you usually need to supplement. So you have to go out and fundraise. You have to write grants just to make sure that you have that cushion that you'll need to do some of the more innovative things that you want to do in your school, even if you can sustain yourself just off of your per pupil money. So I think my board has started to get out there and start to fundraise. I'm really good at grant writing, so I received a few grants, but just trying to get the word out there that the grassroots efforts, the foundations who want to give, like we are doing a lot of innovative things at our school aside from just a Montessori curriculum. And we want people to if you're giving, find us. We want it. Help us. You won't regret it. So I think fundraising is this unique challenge because you don't see people like fundraise big bucks just to give to like schools, and then when you say it's a public school, you're like, oh, but you get public money, but they have to really understand the difference between like we get it and we have all these other things that are not district contracted, so we need some help as well.
And sometimes there's some handcuffs on that money too, for like you can only use it for certain things. So it's like you're not just able to just go use it to build a playground or whatever whatever it may be. So
Absolutely.
yeah, there's some strings attached for I know some of that stuff sometimes. Is the funds like I'm assuming you guys haven't opened up enrollment yet for next year. I'm assuming that'll kind of start next year.
October 21st. Well, we will open up applications October the 21st.
Wow, almost here. Okay, so how does it work? And this, I know this would vary by state, but if we have other listeners that are listening going, maybe I want to start a school in a public school or even maybe in a private school,
Mhm.
how does the funding work when it comes to when do you actually get the funds from the state of Tennessee or the city or however that works for you guys? Is it when the first day starts or when they commit? Like, because obviously you're doing all this with nothing unless you get fundraising dollars like you're mentioning. So how does that part work?
Yeah, so our first disbursement of funds from the state will not be until August 15th. So 2 weeks into the school year, and then the 15th of every month after that. And then they'll do some sure up. So they'll make sure we're getting the right allocation based on the needs of our students or enrollment numbers and things of that nature sometime in October. But we won't get the first distribution of funds until then. So it was very critical for me in our planning year and the year before we launched for me to get grants for our startup operations and all the things you need to do to make sure the building is ready and you recruited and you hired teachers so that when you get your first distribution of funds, it's not like a, oh my God, we got to back pay all these things. We had to make sure we're prepared.
That's good. Yeah, my goodness. Well, you got a busy year ahead. You got a busy, let's say, as we're recording this, 4 weeks or so till you got open enrollment. So things are moving and shaking. So ready or not, here you guys come. So get
Oh,
ready. So in tandem with the challenges, obviously, there's things that, of course, have to be going good, which I feel like some of those have already
yeah,
naturally mentioned because with challenges there comes, I feel like, some good things that come from those, like potentially a building from a church. But are
yeah.
there some other things you're really proud of right now that you guys have been working on that have been going really good? So give you kind of a chance to brag about the school for a little bit.
Absolutely. I am really proud of the community engagement that we have. I've already hired my founding leadership team. So I have three really, really great people on my team, assistant principals and coaches, and a director of operation that has really continued my work as a unit of engaging the community. So we've had meet and greets. We have a parent coalition going, and people are signing up for that, and that is leading to so many more partnerships that we have with like daycares and the Adventure Science Museum. We'll be doing like a trunk or treat there. And just a lot of community engagement, a lot of families coming out, a lot of people really excited about what we're about to bring and trying to figure out how they can support. So community engagement is like the top thing I like to brag on because that's like the foundation of Invictus. I didn't just design the school. I actually went into the community to find out what they wanted first, and that's where the idea to start a Montessori even came from. So I'm happy that it's continuing, and I'm happy that we're planning to make sure it continues even after the doors open.
Hey, school success makers, Mitchell here. I just want to take a really quick break from the show to give a big, huge shout out to the Herzog Foundation. I absolutely love the Herzog Foundation. I've been friends and partners with them for a couple years now, but we're bringing it to a whole new level. And I'm excited to share that our very own School Success podcast is now featured on the Herzog Foundation Podcast Network. The Herzog Foundation is a powerhouse of resources designed to support schools like yours, from free training events through the Herzog Foundation Institute to their incredible online news publication, The Lion, and of course, our new podcast, Home. They have everything you need to stay informed and inspired. And if you're dreaming of starting your own Christian school or co-op, don't miss their online course, Schoolbox. It's a fantastic resource to help you get started on the right foot. At School Success, we're proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation to bring you these valuable tools and insights. So visit herzogfoundation.com to explore all they have to offer. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on these amazing opportunities for growth and success. And I love all the people over there, and I know you guys will too. So please, please go check them out, and you won't be disappointed. Now, back to the show. That's exciting. So your background is not Montessori then?
It is not. It is
Wow.
not. I am a traditional math 6 through 12 girl, and done all the things in that realm. And when I went to start to figure out what kind of school can add to the landscape and not just be another school that's opening doing the same thing as its neighbors, Montessori is what came back. So I spent a year traveling the country, spending months at other public Montessori schools to learn and receiving my administrative license for Montessori before I even wrote my application.
Very good. And you, man, that's really cool. So I guess again, this whole time, I'm assuming you were like a Montessori kid or Montessori parent or something that's like you have Montessori background, but you listen to the community aspect, which I love that, listening to like what are people wanting and the community need, and not like not just adding another school to add another school. It's kind of like, oh, there's another pizza place on the corner that popped up. We don't need another pizza place. Or in my city, I feel like they just keep opening up new dentist offices. I'm like, oh my goodness, they'll build a building and it'll be like beautiful. I'm like, oh, I hope it's like new restaurant or nothing, and it's dentist. I'm like, nah, man. So that is that is really cool. I love that you saw the need and then you've been training yourself and diving in. I'm sure that has been one heck of a learning curve to dive into a different way of education.
It has. But I started this process in 2021. So I've had quite a few years now to kind of wrap my arms around it and was just fascinated that this pedagogy was founded by a scientist, and that Dr. Montessori created it for the least of us, and that I am only the third public Montessori school in Nashville because it's such a so far away from that now that it's required tuition, and it's very much so. If you have it, you can do it, and if you don't, you cannot. So to be able to have a public offering of something that I know is created for the least of us is it's exciting for me. I'm
Good.
happy to do that.
I would love to ask you this too. I usually do, and you made me remember it just now. But when I've had different guests on that are on a different, they do education differently. So you got obviously so many different types of education. Of course, you have classical, and then you got Christian, you got Montessori, you got Reggio Emilio, you got all these different types of education styles out there. I know we have listeners, of course, that maybe are just regular public schools, Christian schools, whatever it is, but they've heard of Montessori, but they don't know maybe the ins and outs of Montessori. What if you were to kind of give like a elevator pitch, I guess you could call, like somebody's like, "Hey, what's Montessori? I'm interested in sending my kid to your Montessori school. What is it? How would you describe it to the people who are interested in going to your school?"
I would just say that the Montessori method is a child centered model that emphasizes self directed learning, hands on activities, and collaboration between students. So your teacher serves as a guide. They will give you the opportunity to learn how to use all of the manipulatives in the room in small group settings. And then they empower students to make decisions about what they want to continue to learn and how to build their understanding. And the teacher then observes to see what's going well and what's not, and then helps craft personalized lessons to continue their learning. So I think that for people who are interested in Montessori, they should definitely look into it because the pedagogy in itself is so centered on the child and less of the teacher that it's fascinating to see in action. And those mixed grade bands really reflects reality, the real world, because we don't all work with people who are the same age.
Yeah.
It allows younger children to learn from older children and vice versa. So I really like the inclusion of it as well.
I do love that's one of my favorite things about Montessori, just that framework of the three to 4 year difference between the youngest kid and the oldest kid in a grade section is
Mm-hmm.
it just makes sense because I've seen it literally. I've seen it play out too in I grew up in church my whole life where we do like vacation Bible school, and I went to one vacation Bible school to volunteer, and they did that model in little pods, and it was like a
Mm-hmm.
5 year old all the way up to like I think fifth grader or something,
Yeah.
and I was like, that is gonna be ridiculous. Like I was like, this is not gonna work. I was very like this, and there's no way. And you watch it, and the older kid was like, I'm the older kid and I'm going to help the younger kids. And the little kids are looking up to the older kid going, I want to be like the older kid. It was just like this natural thing where they want to naturally help the others and the youngers want to look like the older. And you kind of think about if a whole bunch of third graders are in a room together, they're going to act like third graders because all they know is third graders. And so it's like, it really is I really like that method and that setup and I've seen it work. So I do
Yeah.
really like it. Not to say the other ones can't work. It's just, I really like it.
Yes, I really do like it. I see a lot of benefits to it. And for people who are more traditional, when they think through it, they're like, but how does it work? And I always use this example, and then people say, yeah, yeah. I'm like, if you have a child in your classroom who, let's say, is on the first grade level, but they struggle because they're supposed to be in the third grade, and they're on the first grade level, but they're struggling with first grade math, but they're in the classroom with first, second, and third graders, you have the opportunity to pull them into first grade work in groups without pulling them out of the classroom, without isolating them, without them feeling like something's wrong with me to help them grow. But if you have a first grader who's on the third grade math level and ready, you don't have to confine them to first grade math. Now they're pulled into the third grade group. It's that inclusive nature that within this band, we're all on a journey and that we all can learn in different ways and different levels without it being this environment where because you're behind, I'm going to pull you out and give you the help. And now you know something's different about you versus we're all on a journey and we can learn together based on where we are developmentally and we get to do that for 3 years at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Have you in the you said you obviously hired good staff already for this. Has any of that been a challenge? I know, and kind of going backwards and frontwards, I guess, but the for finding staff, because obviously they have to be trained in Montessori to know how to teach it. Has that been a challenge to kind of find the right people? Because the pool of people is obviously smaller than just regular public school.
Yeah, I think I anticipate. anticipated that I would need a partnership. So I do have a partnership with a Montessori training program. So anyone who comes to apply, if they have the foundation that they need in good teaching, because good teaching is good teaching, I don't care where you are, and the flexibility and the mindset to be willing to learn Montessori, we will send them to training and make sure they get the credentials and the support that they need. So I think, it's always going to be a challenge to get those people in. I think having a partnership is a plus because it's something that they can be trained on. And then we'll be able to create our own pipeline. So we'll be able to train people and get them ready for the next level as well. So when it comes to my leadership team, I moved one of my assistant principals from Texas here, and one was already a really rock star teacher. Both of them went through the training this summer and continue to train throughout this year as well. So it has been exciting to see them grow and learn all the things that I learned over the course of 3 years. But we are prepared for that to make sure we have fully trained Montessori teachers in front of the children.
That's awesome. Good
Yeah.
deal. Well, it sounds like you got all the right pieces in place, and so it sounds like it's going to be. I'm excited for your enrollment to launch here in about a month or so. But before we wrap up the podcast, I'd love to wrap it up with one final question and hear what is a piece of advice. I know you're just jumping into this, but a piece of advice that you would share with other school leaders listening. Maybe it's to the people who are wanting to start a school. Maybe it's the ones that are already in a school. But if there was one piece of advice you would share, what would that piece of advice be?
I always quote the end of the Invictus poem, which is, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. This work is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. But if it's something you want to do, put in the work and get involved in the community, and you'll see the fruits of your labor. That's it.
That's good. And it sounds like you're doing just that. So I think you're gonna be in good shape. I'm excited to see you guys officially launch, and I'm hoping to hear maybe touch base somehow via email or something. I'll hear how the launch goes, how enrollment's going to go as you guys are opening up and starting. But I just personally, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to hop on the podcast and share your journey. Maybe we do a recap journey in a couple of years or something. And you're like, hey, you surviving after 1 year of being open or something, and hear how it's going. But again, I love the Montessori the setup and the Montessori school. So just wishing you guys nothing but the best as you jump into starting this Montessori school. And I'm hoping a ton of these kids are going to get a great education from you guys there over at Invictus.
Thank you so much for having us. I will definitely give you the invite to our grand opening. And yes, you're right. I would love to do a recap so you can see all the amazing things that we are doing with the children. So thank you so much for having me.
Sounds great. Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to Brenda for taking time and being on the podcast today. I love what she is creating and getting ready to launch and start in Nashville, Tennessee with her Montessori school. And those that know me pretty well know that my wife and I, we love Montessori education, and there's so many different cool things about Montessori that we love. So I love that they're doing that, and with a public charter school option, which is even cooler in the grand scheme of things. So more people have access to be able to get a Montessori education. So wishing them nothing but the best as they start to go launch that here into 2025 there in Nashville. And as always, hoping you guys are taking at least one thing away from today's episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Or maybe it's just the inspiration to go, I was thinking about starting a school, and now that's making me want to start a school. So maybe that's the part that you got from today's episode, and that would be awesome as well. I'm just hoping that you're continuing to grow yourselves and grow your school in more ways than one. And that is what I want the School Success Podcast to be able to bring you. And so in addition to this, obviously, I say this regularly on a weekly basis almost, that we provide 3 free resources for you guys here at School Success that we want to make sure you're tuning into and not missing out on. And the first one is what you're tuning into right now, the School Success Podcast. We're dropping episodes every single Monday, so make sure you're not missing that. You can go hit the subscribe button so you're alerted when new episodes are dropping. You can even watch this on YouTube if you want to see the actual video format of it. You can do that as well, but make sure you're tuning into the podcast every single Monday. The second free resource that we provide is on our website, schoolsuccessmakers.com. In the top right-hand corner, there's a place to opt into our School Success Report, which is our weekly email that we send out also on Mondays that lets you know some new podcast episodes that have dropped, as well as different articles we've written, teacher highlights and shout outs. We're eventually going to do some fun games and giveaways inside of there. We just want to build up that list of more people that want to get some of that content from us here at School Success. And again, it's completely free. So make sure you're going over there, signing up on our website, schoolsuccessmakers.com. The third and final free resource is our private Facebook community just for school leaders called School Success Makers. So if you don't have a community around you, you might have your people inside your school, but go connect with some people outside of that and some different other schools. And if maybe you're in a Christian school and you want to connect with people also in non-Christian schools, and non-Christian schools connecting with other Christian faith-based private schools, charter schools. Oh my goodness, there's so many of them. Connect with other people. You can learn from each other. You can learn what other people are doing, make those friendships. And that's what I want you guys to do. Grow your community, grow your friendships, grow your knowledge base to make your schools better so the education is going to get better for the students that are inside your school. That is what we're about, wanting to help you do here at School Success, is making you better, which then makes it better for the students as well. So those are 3 free resources we want to make sure you guys are all tuning into and not missing out on. And then we'll be back here next week with another amazing guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.